Welcome to Girl You Good. I'm Cassandra Pickett, licensed therapist turned clinic coach and speaker, helping high-achieving women lead their personal lives with the same clarity and confidence they bring everywhere else. Quick episodes, real talk, zero fluff. Let's get into it. Hey friends, welcome back to Girl You Good. This feels like a very strange episode to record because the title is true. My mom died. And weirdly, some of you actually already heard from me after she died without realizing it. So at the end of last season, I had this instinct to batch everything ahead of time. I recorded the last few episodes early. I got all the social media scheduled. I basically set the podcast up so I wouldn't have to touch it through February and into March because for some reason, I just felt like that was the thing I needed to do. And I remember having this random passing thought while I was doing that. Like, wow, how weird would it be if I died and people could still hear my voice because my podcast episodes were scheduled out? Dark, I know, which is such a bizarre thought looking back now because there really was a death. It just wasn't mine. So while those last episodes were going live, my mom had already passed away, which means some of you are listening to pre-grief Cassandra while current grief Cassandra was somewhere else entirely, trying to survive one of the hardest things I've ever experienced. And I haven't talked to you on the podcast since then. So this episode is really just me sitting down with you honestly, not to be morbid and not to make grief into content, but because grief deserves to be witnessed. I heard this story recently about a village where anytime someone dies, everybody changes something outside of their house overnight. They move a plant, they rearrange a porch, they shift decorations, they move something in the yard. So when the grieving person wakes up the next morning and looks outside, the community itself looks different. Because the idea is that grief changes your world. So the world around you should acknowledge that something changed. And I thought that was one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard, because one of the strangest parts of grief is how normal everything else looks while your internal world feels completely rearranged. People are still ordering coffee, going to work, posting on Instagram, asking what's for dinner. And meanwhile, you're just sitting there like, my mom literally died. How are we all just acting regular right now? And honestly, every poet who has ever written about grief was telling the truth. When they say you're changed forever, you are. When they say it feels cellular, it does. When they say it doesn't necessarily get easier, but you grow around it, they're right. The poets are right. And one thing that's been really interesting for me specifically is that I was there when my mom died. I watched the whole process unfold in real time. The CPR, the life support, the chaos of trying to save someone you love, the aftermath of all of it, which created this really strange push-pull experience in my grief because I actually think the denial phase was shorter for me than it might have otherwise been. Every time my brain would try to go into denial or disbelief, I would immediately have these very vivid images pull me back into reality. So in some ways, it moved me forward more quickly into acceptance because there was no way to fully escape the reality of it. But at the exact same time, it meant I had really difficult images living inside my nervous system while trying to grieve. 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. And honestly, I'm still figuring it all out. But one thing I do feel incredibly clear about is this. People witnessing my grief changed me too. The people who helped me most were not the people who said, let me know if you need anything, because grief does not leave people in a position to coordinate support very well. The people who helped me most just showed up. They decided. They trusted their gut. And because of that, this really beautiful variety of care emerged around me that I never could have orchestrated myself. There were flowers. Mediterranean food literally brought to my lap while I sat there unable to function. She unwrapped the fork for me, and somehow I actually ate. People shared memories about my mom. Someone gave me a card with a rose, a tiny ladybug miniature, a sunlight catcher. People helped clean for my dad. One friend helped us clean my mom's clothes out of her closet because it was just too hard for us to do alone. She gently told me which sweaters to keep and which bags I should save. One friend texted me a picture of a blanket my mom had given her at a favorite things party and said she would always think of my mom when she used it and feel connected to her. And I remember realizing how incredible it is that pieces of someone continue existing inside other people's homes and lives after they're gone. My work canceled my sessions and rescheduled my clients. One friend told our friend group for me because I couldn't emotionally handle repeating the story over and over again. She started a separate group chat where people coordinated how to support me without needing me to manage any of it. People sat with me. People carried things I couldn't carry for myself yet. One friend brought me these very specific caramels because she remembered my mom talking about how much she loved them at a party once. So on my first Mother's Day without my mom, I had my mom's favorite caramels sitting in front of me. I never would have thought to ask for that. I wouldn't even have known to ask for that. And that same friend gave the caramels to her own mom and sister too and told them the story of my mom. And I just remember sitting there thinking, this is how people live on. Through stories, through community, through somebody remembering your favorite candy, through people carrying pieces of you forward into rooms you'll never stand in again. It honestly blew my mind. And I think that's why it matters so much not to overthink helping grieving people. Trust your instinct. Don't sit there trying to perfectly calculate what they might need, because here's the thing. I would not have thought to ask someone to take the plastic off my fork so I could eat. I would not have thought to ask for a tiny ladybug. I would not have thought to ask someone to find my mom's favorite caramels. I couldn't have. My brain and body were overwhelmed trying to survive what had happened. The women who just did changed my life. If your gut says bring soup, bring soup. If your gut says flowers, send flowers. If your gut says text them a memory, text the memory. If your gut says do their laundry, go do their laundry. That intuition to move towards somebody in love and care really matters. That's witnessing grief. In that story, the village didn't ask the grieving person what they should move or rearrange to support them. They just moved it. They witnessed the grief. They show up inside of it because grief changes the landscape and people deserve to have that change witnessed. So I don't really have some perfect polished ending for this episode. I think this is just me saying, hey, this happened. It changed me. I'm still here. And I wanted you to know, if you're grieving too, maybe this is me witnessing your grief a little bit also. See you guys next time.